You to our school board business meeting and the Joanne Idlett Junior TEC. Today is Monday, July 22nd, 2024, and I'd like to call this meeting to order. The time is 6 p.m. I ask that out of respect to everyone, please silence all electronic devices at this time. Also, if you have any material you wish to share with any board member, please give that to our executive assistant, Mrs. Morey. She's over here. Especially if you're speaking at citizen input, it's better to give it to her now. Okay, thank you. All right, please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. I miss the ROTC kids.
We're almost back. Kids are on the way back.
I know. All right, at this time, we are to the adoption of the orders of the day. There is one item on the consent agenda that had some typos, so we had to amend that. We don't need to pull it and bring those to everybody's attention, right? They're just typos. Okay. All right, so are there any other items board members wish to move from consent to action or add to discussion? Dr. Jones.
Yes, just on action agenda 11A, I would like to bifurcate the policies so that we have an individual vote on each of those policies.
Okay, could I get a second?
Yep,
You don't need a second.
Oh, we don't need a second to bifurcate?
No, when you get there.
Okay. Okay, I have to call for a second at this time for the motion. Okay, thank you.
Second.
All right. Any discussion on that before we move to anything else? All right, anybody else? All right, so with just that item, I'd like to call for a motion to accept the adoption of the orders of the day as amended.
So move.
Okay, Mr. McDonald
Second.
and Dr. Jones. Dr. Jones is the second. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Anyone opposed? It passes 5-0. Okay, at this time, I'd like to turn it over to Dr. Moore, who has a presentation for our new assistant principals.
Thank you, Madam Chair. As part of the consent agenda that was just approved, one of those items is personnel. And we have the honor this evening of introducing 3 new assistant principals. And we are very, very excited to have them. 2 are homegrown or semi-homegrown, and then 1 is joining us from Osceola County. I'll start first at Gifford Middle School, and I see the exiting faculty here as well as the incoming faculty. Alyssa Hartman will be the new assistant principal at Gifford Middle School, coming from El Paso. Staying home, which is very, very hard to do. So I was a counselor at one school and then promoted as an assistant principal. Hardest thing to do, because everyone's going to look at you like you're still the assistant, or then still the math coach, but you're their boss now, so it's going to be hard. So family, lean on him, lean on your family for support. But Paul Dunn is going to be the assistant principal at Vero Beach Elementary School. And then we were able to attract at Sebastian River Middle School a current AP and Osceola School District at Harmony High School. Where are you at, right? High school or middle school? High school. Well, he's going to go to a middle school, which is going to be maybe one of our highest achieving middle schools. So no pressure on you, Dustin Keaton. Congratulations. Can we have all y'all come up and we can take a pic? Oh, look, I'm from Vero Beach. I said all y'all. Come on.
Welcome. Congratulations.
A little bit to the right, 1 step to the right. You got it. Okay, ready? 1, 2, and 3. Congratulations.
Thank you.
it is getting into that assistant principal position is a long, hard, arduous process, and it's something you look forward to as you're a teacher, as you're an instructional coach. So I remember getting my assistant principal position and then gaining 20 pounds. So great time, you're in great places, you have great leaders, and we're so thankful for the work that we know you're going to do. Thank you and congratulations. And now your families can take you out to eat. Or hang out with us, watch our show.
All right, our third item is the superintendent's report.
Oh, they should have saved for the report. I know they're leaving, I'm about to brag on all of the schools. So if we could pull up the presentation, this is a very similar presentation that I gave this morning. So this morning we had an absolutely outstanding, very long, but outstanding board workshop. We were able to present a number of items to our school board. We began that meeting with this presentation, and this is some of the academic outcomes that the state has released. So I'm going to go over that information with you. These are the components that make up the school and district grade. So when you look at this score here, and just to acclimate you to the screen, we're looking at the last 4 years of data, and we're looking at the districts that make up the Treasure Coast. So on that first line, you see Indian River County was 55% of students scoring at 3 or above in 18-19. In 23-24, they were at 57. But if you were to look back to 22-23, we improved 6 percentage points in ELA. That is significant. This is grades 3 through 10. And then when you look at surrounding counties, which is very similar to the rest of the state, you see very little movement, marginal growth, but not significant growth. And you're going to see that consistent in pretty much every slide that I share with the exception of one. So this is significant progress from last year, 2 years ago to last year, as well as from 18-19. When you look at math, grades 3 through 8, once again, significant progress, a 5 percentage point improvement from 22 to 23, moving to 60. Once again, in terms of overall percent, outpacing every single district. And then 5 percentage points, only St. Lucie matched that level of growth. So once again, absolutely outstanding. Science, 5th grade, 53 in 18-19 to 23-24, 65 with a 6 percentage point improvement. Once again, on top by a lot on the Treasure Coast, as well as across the state. And we'll talk about how well we look in 5th grade across the state in a minute. Then when you look at 8th grade science, a lot of attention went into our middle school and high school's performance this year, and it paid off in a huge way, moving from 50 to 53 in 8th grade science. Once again, outpacing the state and outpacing surrounding counties in a significant way. This is civics. This is the opportunity for improvement. You can see across the board from 18-19 to 23-24, we have remained basically the same. This is the one area across all assessed areas where we have sustained no major improvements. So I committed to the board this morning. You're going to see us making significant movement there. 67 still, overall in terms of the state comparison, good, but not good enough in terms of the other areas in terms of overall growth. When you look at U.S. history, going from 64 in 18-19, last year was 65 to 72% of our students scoring 3 or above. Once again, significantly outpacing the state and other surrounding counties. Now this is we're looking at the data in a different way. We were comparing in the previous slides our growth from last year to the end of last year to 2 years ago to end of last school year. This looks at the overall growth within the school year. So if you look at that first slide, you see when school started across the state, 33% of the students were at 3 or above when school started, but only 32% in Indian River County. At the end of the year, we surpassed the state, moving to 57, and they're only to 53. So we grew 25 percentage points. The state only grew 20, and the numbers just continue to grow when you look at the other grade bands. So when you're looking at ELA for 3rd grade, You see, the state started at 24, we started at 20, yet we were able to grow to 63, where the state only grew to 55, significantly outpacing them by 12 percentage points. And then math, 3 through 8, state started the year at 14%, was able to get to 56. We started at 11, 3% below, but actually ended up 5 percentage points above, moving the state from 42. We outpaced them by 8 percentage points. So significant growth within the school year as well. So when you look at the growth from the beginning of the year to the end of the year, as well as the growth in students scoring 3 or above, you see significant improvement. Just to kind of highlight that improvement, as we are looking at our own particular growth, every single county in the state of Florida takes the same exact assessment. And one of the things you're going to realize when you look at these results across the state of Florida, the rate of change is not significant for other districts. It's maybe 2 up or 2 down. There are some small schools, small districts that have as much kids in their entire district as we have in one middle school. And you see 4 or 5 or 6 percentage points up or down. But when you look at each of these assessed areas, you're seeing us go from 31 to 21 to 20 to 14. That is significant. Grades 3 through 8, 36 all the way up to 12. When you're looking at grade 5 science, that is number 5 in the state of Florida. We started at 35 in 18-19. That is absolutely significant. When you're looking at grade 8, we've leveled off at 16, but we will continue to grow. But when you look at that starting point, it was 38. And then when you look at some of our achievements, so this is new board, so I know you're like, oh, I've already saw this, but we added this just based on some conversation. This is looking at our subgroups. And we spoke a little bit this morning about reducing the gap. And the gap is the variance between white performance and black performance. So if you look at the first slide, it says black-white. That's the variance between the percent of students who are 3 or above white compared to the percent of students who are 3 or above that are black. 18-19, it was 29. This year, last year was, or 22-23, it was 27, and now 25. What you're seeing is a positive close of the gap, meaning that our white students are growing. They're around 68, 69. They're growing, while at the same time, black students are growing at a faster pace to close that gap. We hit Hispanic, leveled off at 19. Students with disabilities, the gap is 35. That's a decrease of the gap. And then our economically disadvantaged, once again, you're seeing a decrease in the gap. So that is ELA. And then looking at math, once again, gaps beginning to reduce, while both subgroups are continuing to improve. The gap, black-white, 28 to 25, white Hispanic, 17 to 14, students with disability remaining at 31, and then economically disadvantaged moving from 16 to 15. So we are, regardless of how you're looking at the growth, you're seeing significant growth. When you're looking at the upcoming school grades, everything we have to this point is just basically student outcomes. The state on Wednesday will approve a new grading scale. So right now, the district has a A rating, and we're waiting to see what our district grading would be. Of the data that I presented here, it doesn't include learning gains. It just looks at students who scored 3 or above. So there's a significant amount of data that's yet to be received. But you look at from 21-22, when the entire scale was being used by the state, you see that they're moving in elementary school, there's no changes. The cut scores for an A, B, C, D, and F remain the same. But you realize in middle school, you have to improve 62 to 64 to receive an A. A B goes from 54 to 57. A C goes from 41 to 44. A D from 32 to 34. So what you see is the state raising the bar. An outcome of 62 2 years ago would have made a middle school an A. An outcome of 62% points this year would make them a B. Same thing holds true. If you were a 54 2 years ago, you would have been a B. Now you'd be a C. So the state, rightfully so, is increasing the expectation around cut scores. So we have to perform at a higher level across the board to maintain an A grading for the district, and same thing holds true for our middle schools and high schools. Now, when you look at the, it says combination and district school grade, we don't have any combination schools yet, but you'll see 2 years ago, an A was 62% of the points. Now it's going to be 64. So if we're going to maintain our A, we have to improve by a minimum by 2 percentage points. And we have assessments that are ultimately have higher cut scores as well. So the assessments themselves are more complex. The grading scale that's being used, the bar has been raised. So the state is setting the bar higher with a more complex assessment and moving the cut scores up. So later this week, we anticipate getting our letter grades. We anticipate, just based on the data that we have, significant improvements from where we were last year, and even more significant improvements from where we were in 18-19, going back prior to the pandemic. I said it today, but this is a little bit more public meeting. When we greet our principals back in their leadership teams Wednesday morning, we will set the expectation that every single school in this district will, at the end of next year, be an A. That is the goal. We didn't come in and saying that we were going to be an A district. That was a given. We've accomplished that, and we expect to continue to have an A rating. But this community deserves nothing but A schools. And that's a huge statement. And you need to be laser focused. You need a board who's going to stand behind the work, get things out of the way, support the work. You need a staff who's going to be unwavering in its belief in children and willing to do whatever needs to be done to be in service of each and every single child. So as we move forward, we will celebrate later in the week with the outcome of the district grade as well as the school grades. Even though we're not 100% sure what they were going to be based on the growth, we know we're going to celebrate. We're claiming it. And then we're going to have even a bigger celebration next year when we prove to everyone across the state that every single school in a district can and should be an A. So that is the presentation, board members.
Thank you, sir. Great presentation. All right. So at this time, I'm going to read the guidelines for citizen input. We have 17 speakers. All right. So each statement made by a member of the public shall be limited to 3 minutes duration. I will be recognizing in the order in which the request was received. The time shall start when the speaker is at the podium, and the public information officer will be the official timekeeper, the one moving the podium right now. As you see, the time clock will be visible right there on your left of the dais. You will hear a beep at the end of the 3 minutes. Each person may speak for up to 3 minutes at the beginning of the business meeting, during citizen input, as indicated on the order of the business, and for up to 3 minutes to each action agenda item during the action agenda when we vote, before we vote, sorry, as indicated on the order of business. If a consent item is moved to an action item, then when you come to the podium, you may speak at that time, or you may defer to speak during the presentation of the action item. People may only speak once about any given item. The time period may be extended by the presiding officer. Only the individual submitting the speaker's form is allowed to address the board. Time may not be yielded to other speakers. During the meeting, please refrain from clapping or outbursts of any sort so that we may proceed with dignity and with decorum by not infringing on any individual's First Amendment rights. I need to remind everyone to direct all comments to the chair, not to individual board members or to the superintendent, please. Board members may or may not address any citizen input statements at the end of all citizen input comments. As board members listen to citizens without interruption, citizens are asked to give board members the same respect. As per Florida Statute 1001.372, subsection 3, the presiding officer of any district school board may order the removal from a public meeting held by the district school board of any person interfering with the expeditious or orderly process of such meeting, providing such officer is first issued a warning that continued interference with the orderly processes of the meeting will result in removal. The first warning is to everyone at this time: no personal attacks, please, no inciting, and no disrespect. I will be calling you up 2 at a time. The first person will be called to the podium to speak. The second will be on deck and in line to speak behind. Speakers shall not engage in personal attacks or abusive language. The chair has the right to terminate any speaker's privilege to address the board if this rule is violated. If you have anything to give to board members or to the superintendent, please do that through our executive assistant, Mrs. Moray, seated right here. It is clear that the board has taken action to comply with the law regarding instructional materials, including library books. If you are here to express your opinion regarding HB 1069 on materials in school libraries, we would ask that you visit staff in the lobby to initiate the challenge process. Finally, the school district supports First Amendment rights of speakers and rights outlined in HB 1069 regarding library materials. As such, some individuals may choose to exercise these rights, which may include reading material with language or content that is not appropriate for all audiences. Knowing this, please make a viewing decision appropriate for you and your family. All right, with that, I am going to recognize our first speaker and the person on deck. Our first speaker sent theirs by email. That's Derek Weintraub. I hope I said that right. And on deck is Dr. Margie Flanagan.
Good evening, Madam Chair. My name is Derek Weintraub. I am the chairman for the Indian River County Tobacco-Free Partnership. I'm here tonight to ask the Indian River County School Board to finalize adoption of the Neola Tobacco-Free Educational Component, which entails a student receiving tobacco prevention education after being caught vaping at school. Currently, Indian River County has adopted 14 of the 15 Neola use of tobacco on school premises policies. Indian River County School Board has already implemented the tobacco-free educational component through Safer Coalition. The only remaining piece left is the official written adoption of this component in the school board's policy. The Florida Department of Education and Bureau of Tobacco-Free Florida highly encourages each Florida county to adopt all of the Neola policy components and the use of tobacco on school premises. Again, Indian River has already implemented this remaining component. We are simply asking for this to be adopted officially in writing as the final missing piece of the Neola policy. We have brought this to the attention of the Indian River County different leaders at the school board, and everyone seems to be in favor of this policy, but nothing is actually put into place to put it in writing. So that is what we are asking for at this time. Thank you for your time, and we greatly appreciate your service.
Thank you. Dr. Margie Flanagan. On deck is Heather Askin.
Good evening. I'm Dr. Margie Flanagan, Chair of Education Champions Advocates for Public Education. Since the May meeting, where 3 school board members rejected the recommendation of our district objection committee and voted to remove Alan Grass's Ban This Book from school shelves, our board has received national and international attention, sadly, none in a positive light. CNN, The Washington Post, USA Today, The Independent, MSN, Kirkus Review, Tallahassee Democrat, and our Treasure Coast T.C. Palm editorial board and more have all criticized the 3 board members for their misguided decision. The removal caught media attention because of the irony of banning a book called Ban This Book. It makes great headlines. When Moms for Liberty challenged the book and the 3 moms-backed board members overrode the committee recommendation and banned the book, access was denied to the children and parents in IRC public schools who don't agree with such views. To the chair, Dr. Posca's liberal Marxist propaganda comments and Mr. McDonald's condemning a book because a 9-year-old challenged school board authority underscores the political cultural war issues that detract from encouraging student literacy and critical thinking. We should encourage reading and focus on increasing, not limiting, diverse materials. Historically, book bans have been the tool of tyrants, and history has not been kind to those employing the tactic. And while we acknowledge that certain literary works are not suited for all age groups, the district already has mechanisms in place for parents to restrict their children's access to materials they deem unsuitable or contrary to their values. We also have expert media professionals who screen for inappropriate content. After the May 2024 board meeting, we received letters from authors, including Alan Gratz, author of Ban This Book, regarding book removals. Tonight, Education Champion members will use their allotted time to read into the record the author's own words. What better way to articulate the importance and joy of reading? To quote journalist Ali Velshi, book banning is a powerful weapon in the arsenal to degrade democracy. And whether you use the phrase book ban, challenge, removal, or restricting, the outcome is the same. Access is denied or limited. We urge you to support the bedrock American principle of freedom of expression and thought. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Heather Askin is next. Margaret Murray is on deck.
Good evening. I'm Heather Askin. I'm an education champion and an advocate for public schools. Tonight you'll hear letters addressed to our school board written by authors. Please note that these are the author's unedited and unfiltered words. First, you'll hear from Alan Gratz, an award-winning author of 20 young adult novels. 6 produced plays and other acclaimed writings. His 2017 novel, Refugee, spent more than 5 years on the New York Times bestseller list and is the winner of 14 state awards. He received the Sidney Taylor Book Award, the National Jewish Book Award, the Sybil Middle Grade Fiction Award, a Charlotte Huck Award honor, and a Malka Penn Award for Human Rights. Refugee was also a Global Read Aloud book for 2018. The National Coalition Against Censorship's letter to the board will also be read. Cynthia Ekren is an author of a historical fiction novel, The Class of Perfection. Miss Ekren calls Vero Beach home. She currently is traveling while conducting research for her second novel. Linda Henry is a children's author and journalist who writes for a host of publications. Her book, The Cookie Garden, is described in her letter. Amanda Jones is a school librarian and author. She has earned numerous honors and awards, including being named Librarian of the Year by the School Library Journal of 2021, American Association of School Librarians Intellectual Freedom Award, and the Paul Howard Award for Courage, and more. Laura Groff is a 3-time National Book Award finalist and the New York Times bestselling author for 5 novels, 2 celebrated short story collections. She has won the Story Prize, the ABA Indies Choice Award, France's Grand Prix de l'Héroïne, and Joyce Carol Oates Prize, and has been a finalist for the National Book Critics Circle Award. Her work regularly appears in The New Yorker, The Atlantic, and elsewhere, and has been translated into 36 languages. She lives in Gainesville, Florida. Jodi Picoult is a #1 New York Times bestselling author of 30 novels translated into 34 languages, some made into movies. Multi-talented, Ms. Picoult has written and produced musicals including off-Broadway and international productions. Princeton University ranked her as one of their top 10 most influential living alumni. Ms. Picoult was a keynote speaker 2 weeks ago at the PEN America's Unified Voices Summit, Protecting Educational Freedom in Florida. Due to the length of her letter, it will be read in parts. Thank you, and next you'll hear from Alan Gratz.
Thank you. Margaret Murray is next. Cindy Gibbs is on deck.
I'm Margaret Murray, Vice Chair of the Education Committee. Dear members of the Indian River County School Board, I'm very disappointed to hear that you voted to remove my novel, Ban This Book, from your school libraries, despite the recommendation of your own district book review committee, made up of local parents and school officials to keep it. The decision indicates that the removal was motivated by politics and not what is best for the students and families of Indian River County. The removal of Ban This Book is a small part of a much larger epidemic of book banning across the United States. This backlash is a direct result of the incredibly modest yet hard-won gains we, as a publishing community, have begun to make in the diversification of children's books by or about traditionally unrepresented members of our communities, including people of color and people who are LGBTQ+. When books with these themes are removed or flagged as inappropriate, it sends the message that the people in them are somewhat inappropriate. To remove these books is bad enough. To remove my book, because it dared to mention books you have already banned, is erasure of the highest order. Every reader deserves to see themselves and their families represented positively in the books in their libraries. Studies show that diverse books builds empathy and reduces prejudice, creates a more just, more compassionate, and a more peaceful world for all of us. The trouble in Ban This Book begins when the local school board ignores the recommendation of its own book review committee and unilaterally bans books to satisfy a very vocal majority in this community. I hope you will reconsider the recommendations of your review board and put Ban This Book back on the shelves of your district library. If not, I implore you to at least read the book yourself. You will learn, as Amy Ann and her friends do, that once you ban one book, you can ban them all. And then none of us will see ourselves in books because there will be no more books on our library shelves. Sincerely, Alan Gratz.
Okay, thank you. Cindy Gibbs is next. Linda Topper is on deck.
Good evening. I'm Cindy Gibbs. My kids go to school in Indian River County. I'll be reading a letter from the National Coalition Against Censorship, Kids' Right to Read. Dear members, the National Coalition Against Censorship is an alliance of national nonprofit groups dedicated to protecting freedom of expression, including the rights of K-12 students, teachers, and staff. We are writing in regard to the school board's decision to remove Alan Gratz's Ban This Book despite the District Book Review Committee's recommendation to retain the book in school libraries. We are deeply concerned that the board may have acted improperly in banning Ban This Book. It is our understanding that the challenge to ban this book was initially referred to a District Review Committee. The committee in this case reviewed the book and voted 6-2 that it should remain in the school library. On May 20th, ignoring the committee's decision, the school board voted 3-2 to permanently remove this book from school libraries. The board should only, in the rarest cases, overrule the recommendations of a review committee. Recognizing that book challenges are often highly contentious and emotional, the district's regulations require a formal review to ensure that all parties feel they've been heard and respected. Review committees play an important role in adjudicating book challenges. Because they represent all stakeholders, they ensure that every party feels their views have been considered and that decisions about educational materials are made in an objective, non-political manner that benefits the school community as a whole. Overturning the review committee's recommendation also opens the board to claims that the books were removed based on viewpoints they express in violation of the First Amendment. Therefore, school boards should give serious consideration to their recommendations and only overturn them in very unusual cases. While not every book is right for every reader, the role of school libraries is to allow students and their parents to make choices according to their own interests, experiences, and family values. No parent, student, or community member should be permitted to impose their views, values, and interests on others by restricting an entire community's access to particular books. Hold that thought.
Okay, Linda Topper is next. Debbie Martins is on deck.
Hello, I am Linda Topper, and I am reading the rest of that letter. However, during this board's discussion of the book challenge, board members advocated for removing the book because it contained ideas about dissent that do not give students the right kind of information. We understand that the book rejected the recommendation of the review committee and the motion below, which is, I move that we direct the superintendent to not purchase this book and remove it from the shelves, as it is not appropriate for elementary schools, and that it promotes books which are deemed to be inappropriate for this age and age group, and that it teaches rebellion of school board authority by a 9-year-old and by the librarian, and it is offensive to a large segment of our parents. As you know, the Supreme Court has warned that school boards may not remove books from library shelves simply because they dislike the ideas contained in those books. Board of Education versus PICO. In 2021, the court reaffirmed the principle underlying PICO, stating that public schools have a responsibility to protect unpopular ideas. Thus, the removal of books from public school libraries to suppress ideas is a violation of the First Amendment. The minutes of the meeting explicitly reference members of the public who find the content of Ban This Book offensive as a justification for its removal. Therefore, we are concerned that the board might have removed this book due to disagreement with the views expressed within it, in direct contravention of PICO. We urge you to return Ban This Book to the shelves of your school libraries. Thank you for your attention and consideration to this matter. Sincerely, Christine Emmerin, Youth Free Expression Program Director, National Coalition Against Censorship, co-signed by American Booksellers for Free Expression, the Authors Guild Children's and Young Adult Book Committee, PEN America, and National Council of Teachers of English Society of Children's Book Writers and Illustrators. Thank you.
Thank you. Caroline Rosenfeld is next. Joanna Dunlap is on deck.
Hi, I'm
Hello.
Debbie Martins. This is the author that I'll be reading for. Dear Indian River School Board, I am writing to urge you to reconsider banning books in our schools because of my own experiences as a child of divorced parents, as a lifelong student, and as a writer. My life would look vastly different if I had not had access to an array of books to turn to for information, inspiration, and understanding. My parents divorced when I was in grade school. In the 70s, in the Midwest, this was still taboo and rare, so I lived with a lot of shame and confusion. What helped me feel less alone were stories of girls from divorced families like mine, and Judy Blume books that I got from the school librarian. Authors like Judy Blume, unlike the adults in my life, were not afraid to address difficult subjects that I related to, which made me feel less alone. My early connection with books led me to become a lifelong student of history, political philosophy, and literature. As a mother, it is important for my children to feel that there was nothing off limits for them to read, but they knew there were some books we would absolutely need to discuss. My kids are now grown. One is in publishing and the other in film. Last year, after years of writing, researching, and editing, I published a historical novel set in the years leading up to the Russian Revolution. Since grade school, when we had time each week to choose our own books from the library, I've been drawn to history. In the 3rd grade, Mrs. Christensen liked a story I'd written and told me I was a writer. Stories and teachers are powerful. For me, they were the seeds that grew into a book of my own. What seeds will never be planted because of the books that you have removed from the schools? I encourage each of you on the board to reflect about the books you had access to as young children. What shaped your life, offered comfort, a sense of belonging, and a better understanding of people whose lives were different from your own? My hope is that in this reflection, you will refuse to ban another book from our school libraries. Respectfully, Cynthia Ekron. The world is full of magic things, patiently waiting for our senses to go sharper. W.B. Yeats. Thank you.
Thank you. Caroline Rosenfeld is next. Joanna Dunlap is on deck.
I'm Carolyn Rosenfeld, an education champion. I'm going to read a letter from author Linda Henry, who wrote The Cookie Garden. To the Indian River School Board, as someone whose love of reading was fostered by access to library books starting in grade school, and as the author of a children's book called The Cookie Garden, I urge you to reconsider banning books in schools. I was fortunate to grow up in a place where the school library was open one day a week in the summer. This was a special day for the kids in the neighborhood. The county library's bookmobile even came to our street at regular intervals. Being able to check out books with an array of selections made me more curious and connected to my neighbors, community, and the world. I understand the world is different now. Children have access to the internet and are on their screens more hours than is probably healthy for them. Books offer an escape from the onslaught of social media and its dangers. More than that, they offer a window into possibility and hope, a way to see things from other perspectives, something we sorely need. Books nurture empathy and compassion. My goal in writing The Cookie Garden was to cultivate imagination in children, parents, and grandparents. But what if a parent objects to the idea of promoting cookies to children because too much sugar is bad for them? Or objects to the notion that growing a cookie garden might be possible? Or is offended by the notion that a parent might create a bit of magic for a child? Should that parent be able to block all parents and all children from reading the book? I believe the answer is no. Please don't ban books. Respectfully, Linda Henry.
Thank you. Joanna Dunlap is next. Arlene Jamison is on deck.
I'm Joanna Dunlap. I'm reading a letter from Amanda Jones to the Indian River School Board. Dear esteemed board members, my name is Amanda Jones, and I am a school librarian and author. In 2021, I was named the School Librarian of the Year by School Library Journal, and am the author of That Librarian, The Fight Against Book Banning in America. In July 2022, I spoke about censorship and book banning as a resident at my community's public library. What ensued has been a well-documented attempt to harass and defame me by pro-censorship extremists, including the National Moms for Liberty Twitter page, in which they retweeted an article about my harassment and stated that I was a groomer who should cry more. When confronted about that tweet on 60 Minutes, they had nothing of value to say. Imagine my surprise that a dedicated 23-year educator such as myself, whose sole crime was to speak against censorship in my own community, would be attacked. I am also a mother and believe in parental rights. Fast forward 2 years, and I am no longer surprised by anything this group says or does. There is a well-funded misinformation campaign against public schools, libraries, and books happening not only in Florida, but across the United States. It must stop. Libraries are for everyone, and books have the ability to save lives. It is a fact that the majority of book bans and censorship efforts disproportionately target the LGBTQIA+ community. Florida is home to over 72% of the nation's challenged book titles, as reported by PEN America, and seems to be ground zero for this hate. Hate is exactly what it is. Yet hate should have no place in our schools. The displays of hate by self-proclaimed
Joyful Warriors sets an awful example for our children, and make no mistake, the children are watching. The Human Rights Coalition published a report in 2023 that stated 90% of queer students ostracized at school can find solace in school libraries. It is my hope that you take that number to heart when making decisions. Remember that queer students are a part of your school too, and deserve to see themselves represented in the books on the shelves in their school libraries. We must all work together to make a better world. Making the school system a better place starts with you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Arlene Jameson is next, and Mary LaHaye is on deck.
Good evening. I'm Arlene Jameson. I'm a member of Education Champions, and I'd like to read a letter by the author Lauren Groff, excuse my throat, who was the best-selling author of 6 books that were all on the New York Times bestseller list. Dear Indian River County School Board, my name is Lauren Groff. As a writer, I am a 3-time National Book Award finalist. As a bookseller, my store in Gainesville, Florida, The Lynx, celebrates the over 5,000 books that have been challenged or banned in the state of Florida. I stand firmly against the recent attempts to challenge or ban books in public libraries and schools. I am also a mother, and I allow my sons to read anything they want because I understand that reading books that challenge my boys' ideas of the world is a terrific opportunity to engage in difficult conversations with my children. They are, as a result, happy, smart, subtle thinkers and will make excellent citizens. While it is perfectly acceptable for a parent to want to guide their own children's reading, it is profoundly unacceptable for the same person to prevent the children of strangers from accessing the books they want to read. We do not get to force our biases on other people's children, which is what book banners are attempting to do. In the United States of America, we stand for the freedom of expression, which includes the freedom to read. Sincerely, Lauren Groff. Thank you.
Thank you. Mary LaHaye is next, and Angela Bowling is on deck.
Good evening. Jodi Picoult, best-selling author to the Indian River School Corporation School Board. My name is Jodi Picoult. I am the best-selling author of 30 novels, several of which have been banned by the Indian River School District. It is not the first time my books have been challenged, nor will it be the last. The books being banned at school districts in this country tend to fall into 3 categories: those with sexual content, those written by Black, Indigenous, or other people of color authors, those written by LGBTQ authors. In most cases, school districts where my book has been challenged, those doing the challenging have not even read my books. They've been provided with a list of titles from Moms for Liberty members in other communities who express quote unquote concern for what children are being exposed to. Make no mistake. What children are being exposed to are ideas and lives different from their own, which creates compassion and empathy. Or in some cases, children are being exposed to ideas and lives exactly like their own, which provides representation and validity and a sense of belonging. The books on these lists are not salacious or revolutionary. They are just the kind of books that help kids learn to think for themselves, which is the point of an educational system, and which is also terrifying to a certain small subset of Americans right now. Although it is legitimate for a parent to decide what is appropriate for his or her child, they have no right to make that decision for another parent's child, or to remove access to a book that another child might need. This is not the first time historically that we have seen bans and challenges to literature. Because of this, we can say historical accuracy that is the first page of a fascist playbook. If you want to control the thoughts of a nation, you start controlling what they read. For those in the audience rolling your eyes, consider some of the books most commonly challenged right now were written to chronicle and explore moments in history where being different led to systemic discrimination. The thinking of those who promote book bans and challenges is that by removing these books, we get to rewrite and sanitize history. It doesn't work that way. Instead, we categorically is that kids who feel marginalized and read books with characters that are like themselves wind up feeling less marginalized. Kids who have never encountered someone different from them get to do so in the safe space of a book, and it leads to understanding. Books bridge divides between people. Books that are banned bridge divides between people. Book bans create them.
Thank you. Angela Bowling is next, and Marilyn LaVecchia is on deck.
I'm Angela Bowling, continuing Jodi Picoult. In the event that you have not read my novels, I'd like to tell you about just one of multiple books I've written that the county has removed from shelves. 19 Minutes is about a school shooting and the effects of bullying. Yet the reason it is banned is usually because of a single page that depicts a date rape and uses anatomically correct words for the human body. It is not a gratuitous scene, and it is not salacious, yet it has been challenged as porn. The definition of porn includes a piece having no literary or artistic merit. 19 Minutes has won multiple state book awards, including those in Texas, Illinois, Iowa, and New Hampshire, as well as an award from the ALA. I have spoken out at countless schools across this country and have received thousands of letters and emails, and there have been hundreds of kids who said that 19 Minutes was the reason they didn't bring a gun to school and start shooting. Instead, the novel made them realize that they weren't the only ones who felt so isolated. The book did not harm them. It gave them tools to deal with an increasingly divided, difficult world. That is what books do. They help kids see themselves in a different way. They help kids see the world in a different way. Removing books from a library or labeling them as problematic is the first step on a very slippery slope. We've already seen school districts starting to cancel school drama productions they deem problematic. We've had challenges to curriculum by people who don't have degrees in education. Public library book challenges have increased 92% in a single year. I know, as do many of my writer friends who wind up on these lists, that it is the work of a select few individuals who are championing book challenges. What we hear most often is, oh, that's just going to drive up sales. Trust me, none of us want that. What we want is for kids to be able to read what they want to read instead of being told what they should read. We want the great majority of folks in communities who support the freedom to read to be just as loud as those select few who are making so much noise against it. We want you to stand in solidarity with us, the writers who create windows through which kids can escape and mirrors in which they can find themselves. Because we've seen what the next chapter looks like historically when we don't speak out against book challenges, and it's not pretty. Best, Jodi Picoult, #1 New York Times bestselling author. And just a reminder to everybody to please look into the Gifford local history so that we can get that into our schools. Thank you.
Thank you. Marilyn LaVecchia is next. Dana King is on deck.
Good evening. My name is Marilyn LaVecchia, and I'm a founding member of Education Champions. Tonight, we read letters from authors expressing their strong commitment to the freedom to read and to represent all voices, not those with just whom we agree. It is essential to remember that our country was founded on the First Amendment right to free speech, something well articulated by these authors. As board members, you have a responsibility to develop policies and procedures to ensure a quality education for all of our children, not just a select few, or even the majority, for all children. In response to book challenges, the district developed procedures in the form of a district objection committee to review and vote on whether a book or material is appropriate.
You tasked the committee, which includes members appointed by you, our board members, and then, on your very first review of Alan Gratz's Ban This Book, to the chair, Ms. Rosario, Mr. McDonald, and Dr. Posca rejected their decision. To echo Alan Gratz's words, quote, "This is erasure of the highest order," unquote. Significant negative publicity has resulted from the actions of these 3 board members and subsequently diverted attention and resources away from the important matters facing our district as well as our achievements. This negative publicity expanded far beyond our county. Indeed, it has been shared throughout our country and even internationally by journalists, commentators, broadcasters, authors, and outraged citizens. I personally don't believe this is who we want to be perceived to be. A thriving public school system benefits everyone, students, families, businesses, and the community. It instills pride, attracts future taxpayers, and ensures a strong, vibrant future. We teach our children to admit when they make a mistake, to hopefully correct it, and we remind them not to repeat the same mistake. In fact, my father always told me that it's okay to make a mistake, just don't make the same mistake twice. We ask you to lead by example. Our children and the nation are watching and will judge us by your actions. Please do the right thing and place Ban This Book back on our school shelves. We want Indian River County to be a model for learning, not an epicenter of book challenges and bans supported by the current 3-member majority on this board. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Dana King is next. Suzanne Jones is on deck.
Good evening. Thank you. I applaud you all for bringing the authors.
Please speak to
this
me,
room.
ma'am, not to the audience. Sorry.
Okay. Sorry. I also applaud the academic growth of students in the district, and the success is expensive. The DSEG order and back and forth wastes money and time that could be used for instruction, teacher pay, school safety, instructional tools, any manner of use instead of trying to retread an old tire. I realize some of you on this board have worked earnestly to amend the 59-year-old federal order on behalf of the generations of children who have been born since 1967, children who have not benefited from their rightful access to an education. But it's clear as day that there are others on this board who do not desire this district to be integrated. And quite honestly, what is the point anymore? The fear instilled in this community by the thought of integration has resulted in families being awarded by the state with money to opt out of the public educational system. And so far, this district has lost more than 1,000 students if the news reporting is correct. This white flight will continue, resulting in an unacceptable construct, which is de facto integration. Now, you want to spend money to try to lure back families with ideas such as the classical educational curriculum, exclusively elevating the Western academic canon. I'm not dismissing it out of hand, but it woefully ignores a more expansive worldview that helps all students see themselves and their histories to help them feel welcome and to take their rightful place in this world. Let's just stop this charade trying to come into compliance with the 67 DSEG order. After 59 years, it is a waste of time and money. It's not hard to allow children to sit in classrooms with others who don't look like them. It's not hard to hire administrators, teachers, and staff that look like the students that they are hired to educate. Do better.
Thank you. Suzanne Jones is next. Jennifer Pippin is on deck and last speaker.
Hello, my name is Suzanne Jones, and I'm a resident of Indian River County, Vero Beach. I'm originally from Michigan and earned my bachelor's degree in English Literature and Language Education and a master's degree from the University of Michigan. Became a social worker in interpersonal practice and professionally retired as a psychotherapist in both mental health and addiction medicine. Within the last couple of years, I've become interested in the current education models I hear about in the state of Florida, and more specifically Indian River County. The term classical education, to follow up on what she was saying, at first seemed like a good thing to me. I thought, what's wrong with a classical education? Until I learned what it actually means. Classical education is a model that narrowly focuses on Western Christian culture and is seen as a solution to so-called progressive education. But it's actually regressive in nature and promotes the explicit aim of increasing Christian influence over local government. Here in Florida, this model has primarily been used in charter schools and private Christian schools. I support parental choice of educational influence and religious education. I was raised as a Christian, but as we all know, including this in our publicly funded education, is unconstitutional. Separation of church and state. However, this model has been instituted as part of Governor DeSantis' dismantling of our DEI, which means diversity, equity, and inclusion in K through 12, higher education, and state government. Teaching diversity of people and their cultures, providing equal access to education, employment, and financial well-being, and inclusion in all opportunities of our educational and broader social system should be our goal in a truly free and open society. The classical education model is about narrowing your child's ability to think critically and learn broadly with appreciation and understanding. Thank you for your time and interest.
Okay, Jennifer Pippin, our last speaker.
Good evening. My name is Jennifer Pippin, and I'm the proud chairman of Moms for Liberty here in Indian River County. And it is also my honor to let you guys know that Moms for Liberty National won their lawsuit against the Biden administration for the Title IX. And thanks to many community members that have stepped up, all of our schools in Indian River County, including the charters and the colleges, are covered under this through the Title IX from the Biden administration, from Moms for Liberty. The lawsuit stated that each school had to have a Moms for Liberty member in it to have the protection. And again, I am honored to say that every single school in Indian River County is going to be protected. And thank you to the 4-1 vote that had the resolution to protect, kids in this district. I do appreciate that. I also wanted to thank Mrs. Rosario for spearheading the reduction in the after-school care costs. That was something that was brought to light. It was on the district website, and I just wanted to thank you for getting those costs decreased as families came forward and said that would be detrimental to their financial ability. And I also wanted to thank this board again for removing Ban This Book that directed children to go read pornographic and sexually explicit content from other books. Our children ages 4 to 12 that the book was available to in this school district deserve better reading material than that. Also, Jody Piccolote was mentioned, and I just wanted to let the public and the board know that Jody Piccolote writes adult, which is 18 or more, romance, we all know what that means, novels, and they have no business in children's schools, whether they're award-winning books or not. And some people comparing pornography and sexually explicit content to cookies and guns in this meeting is deeply disturbing this evening. And just a reminder as well, not one book in this school district has been removed for race or sexual preferences. No books have been banned, and in fact, all of the books that were removed from our schools that were inappropriate for unaccompanied minor children were donated to the public library and currently sit in the adult section. Any parent can go and check out for their child free of charge at those public libraries. Another misinformation this evening again, everybody talks about classical education. It's not always a religious curriculum. That has been said time and time and time again. There's multiple curriculums for classical education. The school district has said multiple times it's not going to be a religious classical education. And I also wanted to say this is the last meeting before school starts in the primaries. Everybody vote accordingly. Do your due diligence because the school and the children deserve it. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you. All right, at this time, I'd like to call for a motion to approve the consent agenda as amended.
I'd like to respond.
Oh, I'm sorry, yes, sorry. Go ahead, Dr. Pasca.
Sure. I just want to remind people, is this on?
It is on.
There we go, it's coming. I just want to remind people, I know this has been said over and over, that in this district, we did not ban any book. Banning implies you don't have access to it, right? So the primary rubric that I would look at is, can you buy it at Barnes & Noble or Amazon? Is it available in a public library? So we did not ban any single book. What we did do is we took a children's library and we curated it free of pornographic material. I want to make it very clear, there was never a book removed because it had LGBT or racial stuff in it. That is a lie. So we removed books with explicit pornographic material from our library, but it's not banned, actually. Any family that wants to go find that book and give it to their kid is more than capable of that. But I think it's an important distinction, and here's why. Because there really are books that have been banned for a number of years, and that's not something people want to talk about. There's a whole list of books that are either hidden on Amazon or not sold on Amazon or at Barnes & Noble. These books are all banned not because of pornographic material, but due to their political content that is not liked by the individuals that run these stores, these monopolies. These books are really 3 different topics that are banned across the country from Amazon and Barnes & Noble. These are books that discuss abortion in a negative light and some of the many things that go on in abortion, including the harvesting of stem cells, which requires a baby to essentially be born and be alive. And what they do is they start operating on the baby.
Please. Stop.
I'll repeat it. So essentially, in order to harvest the maximum amount of stem cells, for instance, from a kidney, HEC cells, you want a baby to be close to term, and you want the baby to be alive, because if there's loss of blood flow to the kidney, you lose a lot of the yield for stem cells. So what they do is they induce labor, and then they start operating on the baby without anesthetics, without any pain medication, because they do not consider it a living human being. They consider it a fetus. So they pull the kidneys out while the baby is literally crying and continue to harvest organs until it dies. So books that discuss the truth are banned, and I can tell you guys can't handle the truth because you're running away from it. You're running away from the truth that's been banned in these books. You
Stop,
clearly
please.
can't handle the fact that there are really books that are banned, and they discuss things you don't like. So that's one of the topics in the banned books. Another topic in banned books are vaccine-related literature. There's a number of books that have been published regarding studies that showed potential risks or concerns with vaccines in the last 20 or 30 years. All these books are extremely censored on Amazon and Barnes & Noble. There are also a number of Christian and conservative-themed books that are also on this banned list. So those are actual banned books, and if you cared about censorship, you'd probably be up here talking about that, instead of a book that doesn't belong in a child's library that's still free and widely available to anyone who wants to get it. But instead, you make political dialogue here while claiming, Moms for Liberty is somehow the group that prevents business from being conducted here. So I think that at the end of the day, the truth is no book was banned in our libraries. There are books that are banned, and I recommend everyone go look into that. And it's going to tell a very different story than what everyone said here today. Additionally, I think Alan Gratz, you read a letter from him describing that these books have a lot of positive representation for people. And, a lot of the books that we banned had things like little girls being raped in extremely violent rape scenes that were really disgusting, and oftentimes were put in a positive light, that the person being raped enjoyed it. There were many books with men having sex with little kids, usually boys. There was bestiality taught in these books. So I guess my message to Alan Gratz is, if you think this is positive and belongs in a kid's library, I probably wouldn't want you around my children. And I'll just say in closing, I love that you guys started bringing flags. I think it's beautiful and wonderful, but I could not help but notice that at the end of the meeting, they're oftentimes shoved in a book bag, or when you get up to talk, they're dropped on the floor where everyone's feet are. The moment that flag is no longer usable as a prop to your activities, it's just cast aside. That's what it looks like to me. That's the perception. So, you know, if you care about censorship, you care about truth, and you care about the flag, I don't think I'd seen the behavior that I saw here today.
Any other board members?
Yeah.
Dr. Jones?
Just to follow up, Dr. Moore, I know this has been mentioned a couple times on the Gifford local history and looking at our standards. Were we looking at that in any middle school level, or what were we thinking? I'm sorry, I don't remember.
Through the chair, yes, we're looking at it in terms of exposure. We do have the museum or the artifacts that's actually at the middle school itself, and we're looking to provide additional opportunities for our students to get additional exposure in terms of learning their local history.
I've been to the Culture Center at Gifford several times, and obviously Gifford Middle will come and do field trips there too, which I think are great. But when you look at the African American studies and what we are to teach, middle school and high school, I just think this would be really, really great as far as the history for our students who live in this county.
Ms. Rosario?
I think I'll start with tobacco. I'm not quite sure exactly what that's about, but Dr. Moore, of course, I'm going to charge, I'd ask for you to look into that. I pulled up our policy, which is 7434. I'm not sure if that's the policy that you were referring to. It might be a different policy. I don't know if there is anything, I mean, what I heard was that we are not doing something that's in our policy, something's missing.
No,
So
not
I'd
at
like
all.
for you to look into that, sir, and
I think
if
there's
not.
a Neola policy, which, as we spoke about today.
Sorry, a what?
Neola policy.
Right.
That we have not adopted, but we're currently, whatever that policy is, implementing that specific practice. So we will find the policy. I think Michelle's already kind of tapped on his shoulder, and we'll see what the actual policy is, and we'll bring it to the board to just, if that's something you want to do.
So what I'm hearing is there's a different policy from Neola that we have not yet adopted. Is that?
Dude showed up and spoke. I got to do the research and figure out what it is.
So Dr. Moore will look into whatever that was and let us know.
Right.
Okay, I appreciate that. I really think, first of all, the vote for this board, when the board took the vote against ban this book, that was quite a while ago. And the fact that it keeps coming up over and over and over again isn't because it's a board issue. It seems that it is a community issue, and I hear the concerns for the community. It does have a ring that you're banning a ban this book, but that's not actually the case. So I'm going to come back to the same questions that I pretty much ask Dr. Moore every time something like this comes up. So Dr. Moore, do we as a district ban books?
Maybe we just play back the.
I know, we should, but please,
No, you don't ban books. You remove books from its inventory.
Okay, so we curate books according to what law tells us. I'd really like it for someone to actually, one of the statements, and it might have been somebody who left, I'm not sure, but one of the statements that was mentioned was that we made a vote, that this board voted to ban this book based on politics. I'd really like someone to prove that that decision was made based on politics. That's what I would like, because I hear it a lot, the accusation. Where is the politics? Where was the politics in that decision? It wasn't. It wasn't there. The decision that this board made, and we can, like Dr. Moore said, we can replay the video. The decision that was made that day for this particular book had nothing to do with politics. It had everything to do with what was appropriate. And here's somebody, again, keeps saying, you have no right, you have no right. And a lot of these authors are writing books to this board saying, you have no right to. Here's our right. Our right is found in Florida Statute 1006.28. It is titled, in part, Duties of the District School Board. And in part, duties of the district school board include school library media services. It includes the establishment and the maintenance of the school library media services. And it says, establish and maintain a program of school library media services for all public schools in the district, including school library media centers or school library media centers that have traveling or circulating libraries. It goes on to, there's a lot in here. You're more than welcome to pull it up. It says beginning January 1st, 2023, school librarians, media center specialists, and other personnel involved in the selection of the school district library materials must complete a training program. And in summary, that training program actually describes what is appropriate for the shelves and what isn't appropriate for the shelves in terms of stocking those shelves. This is way too much. I'm not going to read the whole statute, but it does continue to say that each school district board or each district school board shall adopt procedures for developing library media center collections and post those procedures on the website for each school within the district. The procedure must, A, require the book selection meet another criteria, which is found in 1006.40. 2, require consultation of reputable, professional, recognized reviewing periodicals and school community stakeholders. 3, provide for library media center collections, including classroom libraries based on reader interest, support of state academic standards, and aligned curriculum. Each district school board, and this is where it's important, because I hear it, we do have the right, we have the legal right. Each district school board is responsible for the content of all, not some, all instructional materials and any other material used in a classroom made available in a school or in a classroom library, or included on a reading list, whether it is adopted or it's purchased in any other way. Adopted and purchased through the district instructional materials program, or purchased in any other way, or made available in any other way. Each district school board must adopt a policy regarding an objection by a parent, which we have done, and we have a very good objection committee program and an objection policy, which is really lengthy, and I would even tout that we have the best policy in all of the state of Florida. And then 4, I would just say any material used in a classroom, any material used in a classroom made available in a school or a classroom library or included on a reading list that contains content that is 1, pornographic or prohibited under Florida Statute 847.012, or depicts or describes sexual conduct as defined in 847.001, unless such material is for the course of one of the courses which is listed there, such as sex education or some other health education, sorry, not sex education, health education, is not suited to student needs and their ability to comprehend the material, or is inappropriate for the grade level and age group. And so we have done all of those things, but at the end of the day, it is the board's responsibility that if any of these items are included, if they're prohibited content that is contained in curriculum or classroom libraries or school libraries or any such thing, it is up to this board to take final action and vote, and we did. And whether there was a committee or not, I would like to put it again on Dr. Moore. Dr. Moore, I heard something about the committee. Somebody said something about we shouldn't overturn the book committee. I didn't know that the book committee had legal authority to make final decision. Is that their role? What is the role of the book committee after they meet?
Through the chair, the book committee, very similar to all of the other committees, makes a recommendation to the school board, but the board ultimately has the weighs that recommendation, but the board makes its own decision.
Thank you, sir. I would like to, now that we're on that topic, actually, I think it's probably about time that we start discussing, or maybe it should be a discussion between Mr. McDonald and you at some point with the board to replace Mr. Barefoot's person on that book committee, objection committee. Mr. Barefoot's representative. That's something that needs to be, because Mr. Barefoot selected someone, but now we have Mr. McDonald on the case. Somebody mentioned the PICO case. The PICO case, really in incredible summary, was the board in the PICO case which said that they did not want particular books because they were, quote, anti-American, anti-Christian, anti-Semitic, or simply because they just didn't agree with what was inside of the books. That's not what this board, that's not the decision based on what this board made. This board made a decision on that book and other books because the content violated the law. The content was prohibited based on the laws that I just mentioned before, and based on the Department of Education rule, and based on our policies, which say the same thing as the law and the rule. So we do have the right. And people may not like that, but we do. I'm gonna switch topics a little bit and go on to the desegregation. Dr. Moore, we heard tonight that we are not integrating our schools, and that we are allowing our schools essentially to be segregated. Did you hear that as well?
Through the chair, the only remarks that I can make in response to that, that's what when you're seeking unitary status, it is to prove that you are a integrated school system. I've said it before, I'll say it again. In my opinion, this is a fully integrated school system that is entitled to unitary status.
Yeah, and so I hear also often, Dr. Moore, that we are still under the original desegregation order. And I think maybe it might be a good thing for us to start communicating that we are not on the original desegregation order. We are not still under that desegregation order. We are now under the 2018 joint plan, which is partial unitary status. Am I correct?
Prior to the issuing of that 2018 joint plan, the two parties did agree, I think two or three areas for unitary status in those specific areas. I think there's 6 remaining categories. In 2018, we came to an agreement, which is that specific plan that you're referring to.
Okay. Okay. I do appreciate that. I think I'll leave my comments there. Thank you.
Mr. McDonald? Okay. I wanted to bring up a couple things. Neola policy for tobacco-free Florida, thank you for being here. I'm a huge advocate in trying to stop the vaping that's going on in our schools, so I appreciate being here. If you could get a copy of the policy you're saying that we don't have, I think that would be helpful for us to have. You did give it. Okay, thank you. I appreciate that. The other thing I wanted to say, 2 other things, is the comment was made about one board member spearheading the after-school program fee change. Actually, just because a board member speaks first or speaks the longest doesn't mean they spearhead anything. It means that all the board members actually brought that to Dr. Moore's attention. Every one of us was concerned about the fees. So that wasn't a spearhead by one board member, it was a spearhead by all board members. And the last thing I want to say is the word curate does not mean to remove. It means to organize and present. It does not mean to remove a book from a shelf. So that word curate continues to be used by a board member. It does not mean that. We are removing books. We are not banning the book. The book is available in the public library. That's where the books are going. So anybody that's worried that the books are being removed from our schools, you can find it in our public library. But we are not curating them that way. We are removing them from our shelves. So I just want to make that stipulation clear. All right, with that, we are going to move. Yes.
Just a quick one. I agree with your point to the extent that was the case. The last book was being presented for purchase.
No, it was not, sir. It was on our shelves. You removed it from the shelves.
There were 3 copies on the shelf, but it was prepared.
Then it was on our shelves. It was not being proposed for purchase.
Okay, my understanding was was proposed for wider purchase throughout the store.
And that's what you voted on?
That was my understanding that our action was, but the motion both was to not purchase them and to remove the remaining 3 books. So the motion covered both, but my understanding was that that was going to be purchased on a wider basis.
No, sir, it was on our shelves.
Okay, thank you.
All right. We did not have any items that were pulled from consent to action, so we are to our action agenda item, 11A. We do have a speaker.
I don't think you approved the
I thought we did.
orders of the day, but not the consent agenda.
Okay, so items pulled from consent to action, and then we didn't have any, so, no. I'd like to call a motion to approve the consent agenda. That's right, I went to go do that, and I was asked to please speak to that. Thank you. I would like to call for a motion to approve the consent agenda item as amended. Can I get a motion?
So move.
Second.
Jones, Pasca, all those, anybody want to discuss that? All those in favor say aye.
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 Anyone opposed? 5-0, it carries. Thank you. Now moving to action. 11A, we do have a speaker. The speaker is Dana King.
Hello again. I'd like to talk about the 1953 Supreme Court decision, West Virginia versus Barnett, that determined that students cannot be compelled to participate in political rituals.
Okay, ma'am, which policy are you referring to?
8800?
Okay, 8800.
Yes.
8800.
Thank you.
Got it, thank you.
Okay, so the 53 Supreme Court decision determined that students cannot be compelled to participate in political rituals. These rituals include the Pledge of Allegiance and the singing of the national anthem, a song with words set to a British beer drinking song by Francis Scott Key, a man who used his power and his access to power to further enslave African descendants, a people that he publicly declared were intellectually inferior and were the scourge of society. A song that states in its 3rd stanza that slaves should be sent to their graves for fighting for their freedom. I realize Florida has a workaround to the 1953 Supreme Court decision that agrees that students can't be compelled to participate in political rituals as long as the school receives a letter from a parent or a guardian stating that the child can stay seated. Should a parent provide that information to the school, it's no one's business but theirs and the child's teacher and the administrators. For a school board member to publicly malign students for something they know nothing about and should know nothing about is a direct attempt to intimidate students, abusing the authority of their position, as what happened with regard to the graduation of Sebastian High School. It is a parent's job to raise their children to find their way to sound moral reasoning. It is not a parent's job to do the moral reasoning for their children or to get them to the point of perfect soundness today, tomorrow, or by adulthood. It is not the school board's job to raise children to find a way to sound moral reasoning. Our beliefs always evolve, and they deepen with time. Think about algebra. Does everybody get it in the 5th grade, 7th grade, 8th grade? No. We get there when we get there, and it's the same with our moral growth. We get there at our own pace, using or discarding new information and others' input as we see fit. The Pledge of Allegiance is a unifying statement, but there are people who have fought for our right to not state the Pledge of Allegiance, and we need to honor that. It's been decided by a court much higher than this board of
Thank you, ma'am.
education.
All right, this item is a public hearing for the adoption of the revisions to School Board Policies 8800, 8810, 0165.1, and 9150.02. On May 20th, 2024, the school board voted to hold a public hearing to adopt revised district school board policies 8800, 8810, and 0165.1. On June 10th, 2024, the school board voted to hold a public hearing to adopt revised district school board policy 9150.02. This item deals with the adoption of revisions to the following school board policies. 1, religious patriotic ceremonies and observances. 2, the American flag and official motto of the state of Florida. 3, agendas. 4, political activities. Dr. Moore, have you documented that this public hearing was properly advised in accordance with state statutes?
Yes.
We are now in recess. This meeting is to conduct the public hearing as advertised. The public hearing is now in session. Dr. Moore, are there any written responses to the advertised public hearing to be read at this time?
Not at this time.
The public is now invited to address this issue at this time. Anyone like to speak? Okay, is there an individual representing some sort of group or organization that would like to speak? The announced public hearing on the adoption of revisions to the religious patriotic ceremonies and observances, the American flag and official motto of the state of Florida, agendas and political activities, school board policies has been conducted pursuant to notice, and ample opportunity to address this issue has been provided for all. I have not seen any speakers. The board meeting is reconvened at this time. I need a call for a motion.
Madam Chair?
Bifurcate.
Oh, I'm sorry, you
That's
asked
right.
for it to be bifurcated. Okay. So I need to call for a motion on, let me get them in the right order.
Yeah, it's hard.
8800.
I make a motion?
Second?
8800, okay. First was Rosario, second was Jones. Okay, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed? That passes 5-0. Okay, the second one, 8810. May I get a motion?
Make a motion?
Second.
Okay, Rosario and Dr. Pasca. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed? Passes 5-0. 0165.
So moved.
Okay, Dr. Pasca.
Second?
Discussion.
Okay, there is a discussion on this one.
Yes.
Okay, Dr. Jones, go ahead.
Thank you to the board for bifurcating. I believe that all policies are important and we should vote for them individually. 165.1 deals with board member matters at the end of the meeting. Now it states that board member matters report on community, school events, committees. To me, it's the best part of the agenda. The proposal is that we report on this or other items. I just have a concern. We have one meeting a month. All parts of the agenda, we do our best to keep on our student achievement, listen to our citizens, see what we can do better for teacher support, support our superintendent so we can move this district forward. I would just like to consider, I know it's a vote, keeping it the same so that we are focused on what our job is to do for our constituents, parents, students, and everyone. Thank you.
Anyone else like to discuss that item? I hear you, Dr. Jones. I do believe in free speech, and board members have the right to speak to any item they want at that time, so I will totally support free speech on that. All right, I'm asking for the vote. Those of you that vote in favor of this item, say aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed?
Aye.
Okay,
Opposed.
it passes 4-1. And 9510,
9110. 9150, sorry.
on here it's typed 9510.
That's a typo, I think.
It's must be a
Mine says
typo somewhere.
9150.
On the actual policy, it says 9150.
9150.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, on board attachments, you have 9510 that needs to be adjusted, please. It's 9550.
It's 9150,
Oh, so it just got reversed.
right. I think the script is wrong, what you're voting on is correct.
9150.02.
Hopefully,
Yep, Okay. 9150. .02, yes. All right, may I get a motion?
Make a motion.
Second.
Okay, Rosario first, Posca second. Any discussion? All those in favor say aye.
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 Anyone opposed? It passes 5-0. Okay. Action Agenda 11B, State Legislative Priorities.
Madam Chair, this item was discussed today. We had a very fruitful conversation. I will have Dr. Shafty present the board's recommended changes to what was previously posted prior to voting.
Through the chair, based on this afternoon's discussions, we updated the document to reflect the two recommendations that were placed by individual board members and agreed upon by the board at large. The most recent copy has been updated as part of the backup documentation, and you also have a paper copy in front of you.
Okay, board members?
Worked hard on these.
Yeah. Well, let's call for a motion.
I make a motion.
Okay, Ms. Rosario?
Second.
Dr. Jones? Any discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
5-0. All right, no items for discussion, so we are to school board member matters. Dr. Paz, I'm sorry, let's start that, and Ms. Rosario?
We haven't been here. This is our first meeting. I have not been a part of any meetings. Summer is, to me, feels like it's already almost over. It's just almost gone. And so I know the district is working really hard to get ready for the opening of schools. This is typically their busiest time of year. And so I appreciate that immensely. I do look forward to what is ahead and look forward to opening of schools. I know that teachers are probably counting down when they come back. So I did see something on the internet. I guess this would actually fall into the other matters that we just approved. It was a question, actually, from a teacher in one of those, community group sites on Facebook, and it was anonymous, but she just said, "I am a teacher. I'm returning to school on August 6th. I need a babysitter from 7 to 3:45, or whatever her time was." And I was like, oh my gosh. So, I think it just adds to the conversation that we had about parents, and before care and after school care, and having that availability for teachers as well. I think there's this other part of, having teachers come in early, or, we have to be sensitive to their needs as well, because a lot of camps are no longer in session during that time period. And so you might have a lot of, and I don't know if it's ever really dawned on me. It might not be something for us to address at this time. I just wanted to raise it because I want to acknowledge the working parents that are out there, and the sacrifice that they give for their families to serve our community. So in that sense, I do hope all goes well. And moving forward, who knows, maybe we can have care for our teachers.
Mr. McDonald?
Yes, thank you.
We do?
A long time ago.
Oh, we used to.
Yeah.
Sorry,
Yeah,
Mr.
just
McDonald.
a few things to report. The Indian River Shores Zoning Committee, which I now appointed to, has had no meetings since that time. They've both been canceled. There've been no zoning issues for them to address. Also, the Metropolitan Planning Organization, on which I now sit, we had a meeting on June 12th. They went through a number of different projects. A couple of notable ones were the replacement of the bridge in Sebastian River Inlet, as well as resurfacing on Highway A1A from that bridge south. And they talked about both of those projects, which I think are going to affect a lot of people here. And I'm sharing with you a copy of the documents that we had. I thought you'd be interested in. I raised while we were there the school's concern and interest regarding walkways and sidewalks, particularly around the areas of schools, that was important for us. We had a very tragic accident not too many months ago, And I related to them the importance of the walkways around schools and safety for children. And I brought with me tonight samples of what the walkway paths and plans are around the whole district. So you have that available, and you can see what is not only available, but some of the things that are planned going forward. And the last item regarding the Metro Planning Organization, the Federal Department of Transportation had a public meeting the other night on the 17th to discuss the resurfacing project. For anyone who has seen that, I think we got emails on that, but they did get out and tell the public a little bit about what's happening with that development. And my last item was I had the good fortune of going to the Dodgertown Back to School Bash, which was really nice and really exciting to see the school as it's coming around. They gave away backpacks and a lot of different tents with different people represented: United Against Poverty, Cayuga Services, Indian River Health Start Coalition. Moonshot Bus was there. They even had mosquito control with some sample larvae. I've always wondered what a larvae look like.
There you go.
I got a little thing out in front of my house, and I could never tell a larvae from a tadpole, and he showed me what that was. So it was really interesting, and I got the great opportunity of seeing Steam Park. It really is something different, really exciting, and I can see how children will not only find it exciting, but what will learn, and it will draw them into various, particularly technical parts of their education. So I think it'll be exciting next month when that school opens, and I hope it will help drive our test score results.
Okay, Dr. John?
Dr. Moore, I'm not sure who did the one-stop back to school on the webpage, but it's excellent. It's the first time I've seen that. You go here, here, here. Thank you, Kristen. No, a lot of times we have to go here, here, and here, but all the frequently called numbers, all the departments, it's absolutely wonderful, Kristen. Thank you. I agree with Mr. McDonald. I've been to the Dodgertown Back to School Bash a couple times. Great community support, Treasure Coast Community Health. I'm very, very excited. I visited Dodgertown about a month ago, and then I visited it Saturday with the IT team there, Dr. Moore. It was fantastic. Can't wait to see that in action. So the career job fair at United Against Poverty last week was great. It was bigger than last year. And of course, that's where people are looking for part-time and full-time help. Saw some of our parents, saw some of our students, and they really bring the group together. And I mean, they're applying for jobs right there, so thank you. I know it seems like a long time ago, but the Veterans Council Open House, their new place on 14th Avenue, they did a great job with that, bringing people in. I think we had a 100-year-old World War II veteran there who was honored. It was wonderful. Juneteenth celebration at Gifford Cultural Center and then Gifford Park was great. That cultural center up there by Gifford Middle School, if you have not visited, it has great local history, so make sure you get in there. I did walk around with Mrs. Flood, our pre-K principal with early learning summer programs from Step Into K, VPK, just the summer program and camps that were going on. These schools, Dr. Moore, they do not shut down. So, I mean, activities all over. So our parents were very appreciative. I'm a member of Vero Beach Be Kind, and we had a great send-off to Rabbi Bernholtz about 3 weeks ago. That was very, very sad. He was so instrumental with us in our community, and I really just got to know him the last year. But what he would convey to people, how he worked with us, and the Be Kind group, it's been wonderful. Another great program was Connie Peterson's Conversation with the Graduates. This is a template that we need to get on. It was held at one of the Gifford churches. She brought back 4 young men who just graduated from college, and all the kids were in there getting ready to go to college, and they answered questions 10 times better than any of us could have done. What are really the issues? What's going on? What do you have to be aware of? But it was wonderful, and it was pretty well attended, too. A couple more things. I went to Let's Talk Vero. I haven't been there in a while, but that's really good information. As a school board member and a community member, they talked about the write-in candidates. They talked about the building downtown, 3 Corners, and of course, everything that's going on with Vero City Council, but it's just a learning thing for me. I mean, I can learn from it, think about how it's affecting our parents and community, and I know we start this week with Thrive with our administrators. I'm going to try and get into a little bit of that, but what's your saying this year? What's our thing? You know, you always have something really cool.
That's going to be released next Wednesday.
I was going to say, he's not supposed to tell it till the principal's
But
meeting.
don't you meet with the administrators this week?
Yes, that's Wednesday.
Okay, this Wednesday is when you're going to release. Okay, Thrive, okay, thank you, thank you.
Dr. Posca? Nothing.
Maybe
All right.
that's it.
No.
Maybe it's Thrive.
No.
Oh, you've already done that. Been there, done that. I attended the Veterans Council opening too, and that night was pouring down rain. It was very muddy, so I didn't want to go through it. So I went back and went through it, and they had a brand-new employee there that didn't know about the wonderful website page that we have about all the different programs in town that the homeless can access and people of poverty can access. And so I sat with a girl and tried to show her the page, and I thought, you know what, I'm going to connect her with somebody in the district. And so now there's a great partnership going on there with the Veterans Council in our district. Zoning and planning meeting, I brought up sidewalks as well. There was recently a school private school that was being developed, and I explained to that group, they're the first stop before it goes to the county commission. And a lot of times, county commissioners aren't thinking about sidewalks, but that group should be. And they kind of opened their eyes up and said, we didn't realize it was that big a concern. And so I think the more we can be shouting that from the rooftops about sidewalks and the importance of them for kids, I think it's important. And then I did attend the annual barbecue meeting in Okeechobee for the Treasure Coast Council of Local Governments. That is a wonderful meeting because they usually get either a cowboy poet or this time it was a rancher, and he has been a fifth-generation rancher in the state of Florida. Owns one of the biggest ranches in the state of Florida. So he was quite entertaining, but the best part is the prime rib that you get afterwards. So anyway, Dr. Moore, do you have anything for superintendent's closing?
Yes, a few things. We are in the final push as we get ready to prepare for the opening of schools. As mentioned, we will have each of the 22 schools' leadership teams available for a 3-day conference, for a lack of a better way of saying it. We will be speaking about outperforming all other school systems, outpacing all other school systems, while at the same time preserving the greatness of what is Indian River County. That's just a little
But we
sneak
still
peek.
don't know what it's called.
Well, those are the 3 areas in which we will be addressing. We have exactly 14 openings, instructional openings, which is absolutely outstanding in comparison of previous years. That's just at 1% of openings. So we will have a plan in place if we're not able to get those positions filled. Bus drivers, we're fully set, we're ready to go. We will put buses back on the road August 12th. There is a significant amount of work to be done leading into the opening of schools. There is no projects that's going to impede the opening of schools, meaning our maintenance work this month or over the summer was mostly cleaning, air conditioners, all which would be done, other roofing projects, all finishing on time. So that stress is not in the way. We are finalizing master schedules. There's a couple more reviews that need to take place in the coming weeks, making sure every single child is provided the right courses at the right time, and we expect instruction to begin on day one. That is the expectation. Looking forward to an absolutely outstanding opening of schools.
Okay, thank you, sir. I'd like to thank everyone for viewing and for coming out this evening and for speaking. Those of you that are brave enough to speak. At this time, I'd like to adjourn the meeting. The time is 7:48.